Everything is meaningless. Why is there life? For many, it means achieving goals, but for nihilists, the question goes beyond that. They doubt why they were created in the first place. If there is a creator, what did he think while creating life and humans? They are trapped in most doubtful questions about existence, asking a simple question: why were they created and made to suffer? Finding no answer, they believe in nothing. But it's not that simple. Their minds have the deepest spaces where they struggle and pose some of the most basic questions about life, creation, and existence. What happens in their minds is profound and has to be known. Nihilism is a philosophical outlook that suggests rejecting or denying inherent meaning, value, or purpose in life. It often means traditional beliefs, moral principles, and societal structures lack objective foundations. In a true sense, nihilism questions the existence of absolute truths, arguing that concepts like morality, purpose, and meaning are human constructs rather than inherent aspects of reality. Various forms of nihilism exist in different areas, such as metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. For example, existential nihilism raises doubts about the fundamental meaning or purpose of existence, proposing that life lacks inherent significance. Moral nihilism challenges the existence of objective moral values, claiming that moral judgments are ultimately without a solid foundation. Nietzsche's primary concern was existential nihilism, asserting that life lacks intrinsic meaning. Despite this, he believed humans are engaged in a continuous process of valuing. Existing without any form of valuing would make human life unrecognizable. However, valuing something is preferable, but it's not enough to escape nihilism merely by committing to something. What one values also matters. Nihilism, for Nietzsche, lies in the inability to find value and meaning in life's higher aspects, draining the world of purpose and human existence. Nietzsche defined nihilism as the radical rejection of value, meaning, and desirability. This issue is evident in his posthumously published work, The Will to Power, comprising selections from his notebooks. Caution is advised when interpreting these notebooks, as they were not ideas Nietzsche published himself. Yet, throughout Nietzsche's works, nihilism manifests as despair, disorientation, and a lack of higher values. Nihilism as despair is associated with Schopenhauer and Buddhism. The Schopenhauerian nihilist strongly condemns suffering as inherently bad. Similarly, the Buddhist seeks liberation from aimless drifting in mundane life, while Nietzsche advocates remaining faithful to the earth. Nihilism as disorientation is linked to Christianity, seen by Nietzsche as an antidote to the despair of meaninglessness. Christians find reassurance in heavenly redemption, viewing it as the most valuable place in salvation, offering eternal bliss and peace. Nietzsche contrasts this with his perspective that nothingness, often associated with death and extinction, is a concept many find unfathomable. He suggests the way out of nihilism, rendering life's meaning meaningless, lies in confronting the abyss itself. He said that the basic problem of his life has always been the overcoming of nihilism through nihilism. Another famous philosopher who worked on nihilism was Keiji Nishitani, born in 1900. He was a Japanese philosopher associated with the Kyoto School, a fusion of Western philosophy and religion with Eastern traditions that perceived philosophy as a way of life aimed at attaining wisdom for enlightenment. Nishitani dedicated himself to thoroughly grasping both Western and Eastern philosophies. His primary concern, a doubt about the very existence of the self, consistently preoccupied his thoughts. In Zen philosophy, this doubt is recognized as the great doubt. The psychological pressure arising from life's struggles can lead to awakening. Nishitani emphasizes that at the core of great doubt lies great awakening. He proposes that a complete awakening stems from fully embracing doubt. He explicitly characterizes the doubt regarding the self, which initially propelled his philosophical journey, as nihilism. This mood emerges from profound despair, questioning our own existence and the purpose of being. Despite daily diversions in work and entertainment, Nishitani observes that encounters with nothingness and existential questions emerge sporadically. At the age of 14, he confronted profound hopelessness after his father's death, followed by an illness similar to the one that had claimed his father's life. This existential anxiety thrust him into a chilling encounter with nothingness and the shade of death, stripping away the necessity and utility of ordinary life. In the midst of this mental torment, the ordinary questions of life's challenges transformed into profound existential inquiries. Who am I? Why do I exist? The void created by these questions could not be filled by anything in the world, leaving a vast abyss beneath his feet. This intense experience propelled Nishitani towards philosophy and influenced his decision to pursue it as a professor. He describes his life at that time as absolutely without hope and entirely in the grip of nihility and despair. His engagement with philosophy, as he articulates, was a matter of life and death. During his youth, Nishitani carried Nietzsche's "Thus Spoke Zarathustra" like a Bible. He was influenced by Martin Heidegger, spending 2 years studying under him from 1937 to 1939. Nishitani passed away in Kyoto, Japan, at the age of 90, leaving behind a substantial body of work. This includes an extensive 26-volume collected works, numerous monographs, and articles. His personal library, consisting of nearly 1,000 volumes in Western languages and 4,100 in Japanese, was generously donated to the university where he served as a professor. The question of nihilism held paramount significance for Nishitani. It was his most urgent, personal, and radical concern. His 2 significant works include The Self-Overcoming of Nihilism and Religion and Nothingness. The first one, resulting from lectures on nihilism in Japan, serves as the initial introduction of Nietzschean philosophical ideas to a broader Japanese audience. Themes in this earlier work are grounded in European philosophy, particularly existentialism, with Zen Buddhist ideas forming the context. In his later masterpiece, Religion and Nothingness, Nishitani aims for a synthesis and dialogue between Western and Eastern philosophy, emphasizing contemplative practice. Together, these texts document a shift in emphasis in the author's thought. The Self-Overcoming of Nihilism commences with a historical exploration of nihilism and philosophers such as Hegel, Schopenhauer, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Max Stirner, Heidegger, and Sartre. Nishitani provides his unique perspective on nihilism, highlighting it overcoming itself rather than humanity overcoming it. Nihilism is viewed as both universal and existential, as well as particular and historical, necessitating a unified vision to understand its operation in actual reality. For Nishitani, nihilism signifies the collapse of the external social order and internal spiritual decay, marking a time of significant upheaval. In contrast to a past where human existence had clear and eternal meaning, it is now deprived of such meaning, standing before nothingness as a naked question mark. This transformation turns the world into a question, exposing it as an abyss, and profound anxiety shakes the foundation of human beings. Nishitani succinctly captures this essence of nihilism, stating that nihilism refuses treatment as merely an external problem for oneself, or even contemplation as a problem internal to each individual self. This is the essence of nihilism. Nihilism asserts the necessity for each individual to undertake an experiment within themselves. Many branches of philosophy tend to focus solely on conceptual analysis, often losing touch with the intricacies of the human condition. At its core, nihilism presents a problem deeply rooted in the self, exerting influence on the very essence of being. Dostoevsky and Nietzsche, among others, paved novel paths towards nihilism, where foundations no longer rely on distinctly human elements, the journey towards Christ, the God-man, or the Übermensch, the man-God. While their efforts didn't resolve every issue, their struggle undeniably redirected the European spirit toward its most profound dimension. However, attempts to shield the self from nothingness at any cost hinder the infiltration of the process of meaninglessness. We develop ourselves, evading reality, becoming self-contained, with all experiences circling back to the self. When confronted with nihility, the perception is that it erodes the meaning of our lives. The resistance to it with the self only leads to further sinking, akin to quicksand. One of Nishitani's profound insights is that we have not gone deep enough into nihilism for it to overcome itself. He seeks a radicalization of nihility, where nihilism surpasses itself. The awakening of the great doubt is the conversion to shunyata, or emptiness, the deepest layer of being. Nihility is as much a part of reality as being itself, forming an interdependent co-arising, a key notion in Buddhism. Until one embraces nihility as part of the self, there is a lack of relationship with oneself and a complete absence of contact. Nishitani sees nihilism in a more existential mode, where it isn't always an external event, but an integral part of the self. Things can then be encountered on their home ground, not known by representation, will, or expression, but by becoming them. In Religion and Nothingness, Nishitani initiates by questioning the purpose of religion and why we need it. He promotes a dialogue between Buddhism and Christianity. Despite appearing more concerned with Christian conceptions, the central notion of shunyata remains pivotal. He argues that religion doesn't profess to be rooted in a creed. Instead, it signifies an absolute denial of the experience of absolute nothingness and the various efforts to attain it. Nishitani cautions against the perils of scientism, highlighting its tendency to disregard not only religion but also philosophy. This occurs when science asserts its standpoint as an unquestionable truth, treating religion, philosophy, and the arts as mere subjective opinions. It completely overlooks our existential problems and the human condition. According to Nishitani, religion is linked with life itself. The outcome of the life we lead, whether it leads to extinction or eternal life, holds paramount importance. In contrast to culture, religion is always an individual affair, making it impossible to comprehend from an external perspective. Nishitani contends that the key to understanding religion lies solely in the religious quest. Nishitani critiques the question, what is the purpose of religion for us? As an attempt to detach individuals from the religious quest by obscuring the path to its own answer from the beginning. This question hampers our ability to become a question to ourselves. Instead, religion begins with the question, for what purpose do I exist? When we doubt the meaning of our existence and become a question to ourselves, the religious quest is awakened. The shift from a self-centered mode of being, always concerned with the utility of things for us, to an attitude that questions why we ourselves exist is crucial. Only at this turning point does the question, what is religion, truly become our own. Nishitani defines the essence of religion as the real self-realization of reality, perceiving things as they are on their own home ground. This realization is only possible by understanding nihility as part of our existence. This embodies the Buddhist notion of the non-self, where self-awareness prompts the self to awaken to its true nature. Ironically, the non-self is regarded as the true self. Rejecting the ego opens the door to the interdependence of everything, described as Indra's net. All things that are in the world are linked together one way or the other. Not a single thing comes into being without some relationship to every other thing. In this context, we become both the master and servant in relation to ourselves and others. This approach is used in Japanese psychotherapy to effectively address neurotic patients grappling with anxiety and depression. Embracing things as they are, rather than escaping into imaginary scenarios or fixating on the ego's trivial concerns, is considered crucial for individual well-being and the healthy functioning of society. To achieve unity with reality through non-dual awareness, one must learn to empty the self and perceive things as they truly are, free from subjective distortions and reflexive interpretations. Rising above the subject-object division leads to pure experience, a concept challenging for the conceptual mind to grasp. Nishitani highlights the necessity of contemplative practice to truly grasp the essence of religion and nothingness, emphasizing that it is not merely a book, but a profoundly transformative experience. Nishitani's existential concern exceeds speculative and abstract philosophy. Drawing on the insights of Professor John Vervaeke in psychology and cognitive science, understanding should cover not only propositional knowledge but also procedural, perspectival, and participatory knowledge. Philosophy, according to Nishitani, is a transformative experience. Influenced by Zen master Dogen, Nishitani practiced sitting meditation for over 2 decades, grounding his thinking in lived experience. The demanding reality of Zen life is to sit and refrain from striving to do anything. In the West, this may evoke a sense of boredom, a profound lack of occupation and excitement, stemming from societal pressures to be constantly productive. This results in deep alienation from oneself, others, and nature. It's because experiencing time solely as time can be quite challenging. We often find ourselves attempting to kill time or lamenting that we have wasted our day. This perception of time as an adversary persists in our continual pursuit of progress. The truth, however, is that the only genuine existence is in the present moment. In Zen philosophy, the essence lies in merely being with existence, devoid of any other purpose. It entails not contemplating what lies ahead, but faithfully fulfilling one's duty each day. Satisfaction arises from fulfilling responsibilities, while neglecting them leads to misery. Nishitani talks about human existence, dissecting it into 3 interconnected fields: consciousness, nihility, and emptiness. These fields coexist, with each deeper layer being more extensive than the one above. The consciousness field, where we spend the majority of our waking lives, embodies our life perspective. Despite asserting knowledge of others and the world, our understanding often hinges on subjective concepts and representations. Many surpass life without realizing the profound layers of their existence, resembling spectators in Plato's cave who mistake shadows for reality. The allegory starts with prisoners who have spent their entire lives confined in a dark cave facing the wall. They can only see shadows on the wall in front of them, created by objects and figures behind them, illuminated by a fire. These shadows make up the entirety of the prisoner's reality, as they have never seen the actual objects casting the shadows or the outside world. One day, a prisoner is freed and exposed to the sunlight outside the cave. Initially, the brightness hurts the freed prisoner's eyes, and the unfamiliar surroundings disorient him. However, as his eyes adjust, he perceives the true forms of objects and the real world beyond the cave. This newfound understanding leads him to recognize that the cave's shadows were mere illusions and that a higher reality exists beyond. The freed prisoner then returns to the cave to rescue his fellow prisoners. However, they resist and ridicule his attempts to enlighten them as they find comfort in their familiar world of shadows. The allegory suggests that the philosopher, symbolized by the freed prisoner, undergoes a transformative journey from ignorance to knowledge and is responsible for guiding others toward enlightenment. Beneath consciousness lies the field of nihility, a death perspective where we grapple with the terror of nothingness and meaninglessness. Death isn't a far-off future occurrence, but rather something inherent from the moment of our birth. Our life teeters on the brink of the abyss of nihility, capable of reverting to it at any moment. Nihility is perceived as opposing being, existing alone, outside of existence. Nishitani terms it as a standpoint of relative nothingness, a perspective he attributes to Nietzsche. Overcoming nihilism doesn't entail the heroic ego's will to power, but rather accepting it as an integral part of being. While Nietzsche struggled to overcome nihilism, his exploration of the abyss lacked depth. The crucial divergence is Nietzsche's reluctance to fully embrace the Zen standpoint of non-self. He remains tethered to the perspective of the will. To unveil hidden truths, one must step back from nihility and immerse in the domain of emptiness. Unlike nihility, signifying relative nothingness, emptiness embodies absolute nothingness. the negation including everything and from which specific entities form. The transformation of the absolute negation into the great affirmation is profound. In the openness of shunyata, as nihility overcomes itself, one exceeds self-consciousness, breaking free from egocentrism, anthropocentrism, and ethnocentrism. This liberation allows ultimate reality to manifest fully, creating a sense of belonging upon reaching the final field. In this elevated state, one breathes the pure air of the mountain, experiencing the most enlightened life, a death-life perspective marked by profound joy. This transformative journey mirrors the hero's path, involving the psychological death and rebirth of the self. Through this process, a new self, which is the non-self, emerges equipped with newfound wisdom to confront life's challenges. In Zen philosophy, this metamorphosis is referred to as the Great Death, the moment when the great doubt completes its transformative work, a rare experience for a few but a universal encounter with the small death. According to Nishitani, dying before death enables greatness beyond the limitations of Western philosophy, primarily conducted in the field of consciousness. Here, direct access to things is elusive, and we pass through subjective representations. The excellence of the ego becomes synonymous with alleviating suffering, and ecstasy, in this context, is the continual excellence of oneself while retaining one's essence. In the field of emptiness, one breaks through the surface of appearances crafted by human subjects, encountering things as they truly exist, free from subjective distortions. This starkly contrasts the dismissal of the reality of life and the abyss beneath oneself, which inevitably manifests, whether acknowledged or not. Embarking on the journey of self-transformation not only molds our identity, but also reshapes our perception of the world, offering a renewed vision, a change of heart, and a deepened perspective that uncovers concealed aspects previously hidden from view. As we recognize our deep interconnectedness with the world, a fundamental shift occurs in how we perceive our surroundings. The world, once seen as an external entity, becomes an integral part of our being. The transformation of the self involves shifting away from prioritizing individuality over other selves. Through actively practicing the view from above and adopting a third-person perspective, we acquire the ability to step back from our narrow view of things. Unlike seeing oneself as insignificant in the vast cosmos, the individual, by infusing cosmic significance into their life, undergoes a metamorphosis into a cosmic individual. This transformation echoes Kierkegaard's concept of the night of faith, passing from finitude to the cosmos and back to finitude, finding joy in everything finite and perceiving reality as it truly is. The cosmic individual doesn't display any outwardly distinguishable aura or superiority. They appear as an ordinary person. However, every step they take resonates with the invisible force of cosmic significance. It's a state where forgetting oneself equals becoming one with the universe. In this cosmic story, the individual discovers a profound connection and alignment with the vastness of the cosmos, experiencing a harmonious existence that transcends the boundaries of conventional perception. To sum it up, nihilism prompts deep contemplation on the essence of existence, meaning, and the human experience. Though initially conceived as a critique of traditional values and institutions, the implications of nihilism extend significantly to individuals and societies. At its core, nihilism questions life's inherent meaning and worth, suggesting that traditional beliefs and moral frameworks lack a solid foundation. This existential void has a dual nature, offering both a sense of liberation and unease. On one hand, rejecting established norms grants individuals the freedom to question, explore, and construct their own meanings. On the other hand, it introduces the potential for disorienting nihilistic despair, where individuals grapple with a sense of purposelessness and the possible breakdown of moral foundations.